Paul goes into chapter 5 and speaks very authoritatively as if he has already won them over, as if they're sure to listen to him. And why not? Uh, he goes confidently because he hopes that God has sort of moved them across the line with him. Here's the presenting issue: the scandal that didn't scandalize. It is actually reported that there's sexual immorality among you, and sexual immorality of such a kind as does not exist even among the Gentiles. Namely, someone is sleeping with his father's wife. You have become arrogant and have not mourned instead, so that the one who has done this deed would be removed from your midst. So, what has happened? It's either incest or step incest. A man is sleeping with his dad's wife, whether it's his mom or not, we aren't told. It's probably a stepmother. But notice how Paul characterizes it. He characterizes it as an offense that even goes beyond the mores of the Gentile world. Now, this brings up the question of how Paul thinks of Gentile sexual morality. Rabbis, and this is in your handout, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but the rabbis, the writers of literature between the Old and New Testament, some of the apocalyptic writers, they all kind of agree in characterizing Gentile and pagan morality sexually as profligate. Their assumptions of people outside the Jewish community, and now for Paul, outside the Christian community, their assumption about people in that world is that their sexual morality is very loose and lax. So, the context when he says, even among the Gentiles, that's a low bar for him, right? He's saying, even in that very sort of lewd and profligate place, Gentile culture, you've gone farther in your immorality even than they have, right? Now, let's remember, the people he's talking to are almost all people who are Gentiles who've become Christian. So he's talking about where they live and where they used to frequent. He says, you've gone even more immoral than that setting. And in this latter part, you have become arrogant and have not mourned instead, so that the one who had done this deed would be removed from your midst. Paul, as we will see, Paul has already sort of given a ruling or developed a verdict on what they ought to have done, and he brings it to them here and then develops it in a little bit. But I want to ask, where did he get this news? Where did he get the gossip about the guy and his father's wife? And we know only one possible source. It's probably Chloe's people. He's going to say in chapter 6, I hear that there are people suing one another among you, taking one another to court. It seems like this fact, this episode that he's quoting here, and the things that are going to come in 5 and 6 are things that, like the division about Paul and Apollos and Peter, all came from Chloe's people. So Chloe's people have come to town and maybe handed Paul a letter or maybe just shared with him the things that they know. And he is answering what he's heard in this space. So they've got somebody sleeping with his father's wife. Paul is apoplectic about it and thinks they ought to be, thinks they even should have tossed him by now. And let's explore that. Let's figure out why.